Well, a lot of the debate, particularly around cannabis reform, has been predicated on the safety or relative safety of cannabis, particularly compared to certain other drugs. Now that line of argument may be useful in some contexts, but it also is potentially quite problematic. And we would suggest that rather than emphasising a drug's safety as a reason for reform, you actually emphasise a drug's risks. It's because drugs are risky or because drugs are dangerous that they need to be legally regulated, not because they're safe. We regulate risk, we manage risk. We don't need to regulate things that are safe. They don't need regulating. And so as a starting point, we found it useful to say we want to regulate drugs because they're risky or because they're dangerous, not because they're safe. And it's useful, and there's a number of reasons why it's useful. One of those reasons is that often people who support legalisation regulation are accused of being somehow on the side of the drugs or pro-drugs. So if you start from the outset by saying, no, we want to legalise risks, we acknowledge the risks and dangers, that's why we want to regulate, it rather undercuts or undermines that whole line of argument. Similarly, a lot of the arguments for prohibition or against legalisation are by producing long lists of all the health harms associated with a particular drug. It's like, but look, this drug does this, or this drug does this, causes this harm, or whatever it is. And if you just say, look, we understand that those risks are there, and that is why we think it should be regulated, it immediately undercuts that, and you don't get drawn into some long protracted debate about the extent of risks or the degree of risks or whether a risk is real or not. You just say, yes, we understand those risks are there, that's why we want to regulate. And again, you just brush aside a whole load of the arguments against reform and put yourself you give yourself the high ground in that respect. And so this is a pragmatic position. You say it's not that drugs aren't risky, but we are pragmatists and we accept that lots of people are using these drugs. Hundreds of millions of people, in fact, are using these drugs around the world, and we need to pragmatically manage that reality to reduce the harm it causes. This is a pragmatic risk management strategy that deals with the reality of drug use as it currently exists.